Some congressional hearings are supposed to be routine, dry even. But this one? It exploded into a viral confrontation. Today, we're breaking down the story of that hearing, moment by moment, to really understand how this political showdown unfolded, all based on the account that got everyone's attention.
And it really all came down to this. The source material paints a picture where a standard, by-the-book session turns into this high-stakes political drama. And why? Because one person decided to say the one name that, apparently, everyone else was trying very hard not to say. Trump.
So you gotta ask, right? How does a standard intelligence hearing turn into a public spectacle? Well, it all started with a last-minute request from Representative Swalwell. He wanted to move the whole thing from behind closed doors to an open public forum. That one move was a huge signal that, hey, this was not going to be business as usual. This was going to be theater, and it was absolutely designed for an audience.
The source material really sets the stage here by painting a picture of two very different players entering the ring. On one side, you've got Kash Patel, who's described as cool, confident, almost like he's ready to just brush off any political attack. And on the other side, Eric Swalwell, who's portrayed as having meticulously prepared for this exact moment, turning that public hearing into his own chosen arena.
Okay, so for the first 40 minutes, everything was predictably, well, dull. We're talking questions about budget, standard protocols, the kind of hearing that puts staffers to sleep in the back row. Patel reportedly handled it all with ease, giving his usual non-answers, maybe even looking a little bored. But this calm, it was just the prelude to the storm.
And then, bam! With that one sentence from Swalwell, the entire atmosphere in the room reportedly just shattered. The routine part of the hearing was officially over. The real confrontation was just getting started.
Okay, so now we get to the absolute heart of the accusation. This wasn't some vague inquiry, not at all. This was a direct shot that, according to the source, brought the entire hearing to a dead stop. This right here, this was the bombshell question. The source describes the room as not just going quiet, but freezing, as if dozens of people all stopped breathing at the exact same time. The focus was now razor sharp, and it was aimed directly at the former president.
So what does Patel do? The source really zooms in on his reaction here, describing this super-fast sequence of expressions. First, a flicker of shock, then irritation, and then a controlled political mask just falls into place. His official response, a flat denial. He claimed to have no knowledge of any reclassification aimed at one specific person.
But it seems like Swalwell was completely waiting for that denial. The narrative says he was ready for it and immediately produces the first piece of hard evidence, an internal FBI memo. And this document, it appeared to directly contradict what Patel had just said, creating a direct challenge to his sworn testimony.
From this point on, the source describes Swalwell just methodically building his case, piece by piece. He lays out 3 specific categories of evidence to try and support his accusation of a cover-up.
First up, he hits him with a number, 23. According to the transcript, Swalwell claimed that 23 specific documents, which had already been approved for public release, had been suddenly pulled back and reclassified. And here's the crucial part. He claimed that every single one of them mentioned Donald Trump. The implication, of course, was that this was no coincidence, but a deliberate pattern. The second piece of evidence was an unclassified summary of witness testimony. Swalwell is quoted directly, stating that this testimony named 14 men, and, yep, one of those names was Donald Trump. The accusation here was that this testimony was buried and reclassified instead of actually being investigated.
And for the final piece of evidence, Swalwell reportedly threw in a real element of mystery. He pointed out that while one photo of Trump and Epstein is public, he claimed the FBI actually has 37 more from that same event, logged as evidence but never released to the public. He then basically left the question hanging in the air. What exactly are those photos hiding?
And all of this leads up to what the source material presents as the absolute climax of the entire exchange. This is the culmination of all the evidence, the point where it all builds to a direct, personal accusation.
The source really emphasizes the physical action here to heighten the tension. I mean, think about it. A senator standing up in the middle of a hearing, that's highly unusual. That physical act, combined with a rising voice, was a clear signal that the climax of this whole confrontation was about to happen.
And there it is, the core accusation of the entire hearing, delivered from maximum impact. According to the source, this was the moment all the pretense was just dropped. Swalwell was stating, plain as day, that Patel's actions weren't about protocol. They were about protecting a single, powerful political figure.
To really drive home just how stunned the room was, the source uses this number, 20 seconds. Now, 20 seconds might not sound like a long time, but in the fast-paced world of a congressional hearing, that is an eternity. It's portrayed as the moment a witness was left with absolutely no immediate answer.
So, after a bombshell moment like that, what happens next? Let's move into the aftermath and see how this narrative describes the immediate consequences of this very, very public confrontation.
Well, according to the source, the political and media fallout was immediate and intense. The footage reportedly went viral almost instantly. You had legal experts all over the news debating whether Patel's testimony could actually be obstruction of justice, and Swalwell didn't waste any time. He announced concrete next steps like subpoenas for those 23 documents and a call for an inspector general investigation.
And so, this whole explainer of the source material ends right where the narrative itself concludes, with a provocative question just left hanging in the air. That question, what are you keeping hidden, perfectly summarizes the unresolved tension and the central mystery that, according to the source, now demands an answer.